Good morning, everyone. We are now going to start the webinar. So I will start by welcoming you here to this live workshop on cyber hacks. So this is the first of many live workshops where we will be having live demos on topics related to cyber hacking. So we will keep you posted of the upcoming live workshop on cyber hacks dates. Okay, so and now I will start with just giving a brief introduction on MBG Corporate Services for those who don't know the company. And then I will proceed to introduce the speakers, and then we will start with the actual content. So MBG Corporate Services is a global company headquartered in Singapore. It was established in 2002. We have 18 offices in 8 locations, and we cover Middle East, Asia, and Europe. We have more than 3,000 clients globally, and we have more than 100 clients, which are Fortune 500. We also have a large team of 600 professionals, 250 of which are located in the UAE. We have a diverse workforce. So we have our Arabic desk, we have Chinese desk, Japan desk, and European desk. So we have professionals speaking different languages from different nationalities serving these specific desks located in the UAE and in our offices abroad. We also serve companies throughout the whole, all the stages of the company life cycle. So from launch to growth, to shakeout, maturity, and extension. So we cover the whole range of services that companies require throughout their whole life cycle. We provide a wide range of corporate services. So we have audit and assurance, risk advisory services, indirect tax, direct tax, mergers and acquisitions, legal advisory, strategy and transformation, and technology advisory, of course. We serve diversified industries. So we are sector agnostic. We serve all types of companies and all types of industries, and we have experience in all of these industries that you can see on the screen. So now I will start by introducing the speakers. So we have Mr. Harish Kumar, who is Manager of Cybersecurity and Information Security at MBG Corporate Services. So Harish has more than 14 years of experience in information security, cybersecurity management, business continuity management, and cyber risk management. We also have Amit Kore. Mr. Amit is a senior cybersecurity consultant at MBG Corporate Services. He has 9+ years of experience in application security, penetration testing, and network security, and he's an expert in exploiting OWASP Top 10 SANS 25 security standards. Then we have Shah Faisal Hussain, who is a cybersecurity analyst at MBG Corporate Services. So Mr. Faisal is a certified ethical hacker and a penetration tester. He has an experience of more than 2 years in system administration and IT operations and in providing technical support for activation and maintenance of Cisco devices. So Mr. Harish, you can start.
Thank you so much, Dana, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm Harish. Thank you for joining this first webinar session on Life Hack with MBG. Your participation is appreciated. So before we proceed with our actual life hack demo, we would just like to walk you through from the disclaimer. I would like all the participants to have a look on the disclaimer. After that, we will start our actual presentation. So let's start looking at the agenda for today. So for today's webinar session on the workshop of Life Hack, we will start with introduction to cyber attacks, how passwords are obtained through phishing emails, how authorized person can see your active web session, how malicious files are uploaded and your system is accessed, how to protect systems from cyber attacks, how MBG helps their clients. So let's move on. So let's start. What is cyber attack? So we have been listening about cyber attack from a while now. So what is this all cyber attack is all about? Cyber attack is nothing but it's the threat that is prolonged through the usage of internet. So this can be an unauthorized attempt to steal, disclose, or alter or disable your information. The main objective of cyber attacks or hacks are to compromise information or data of an organization. Like we all know that in today's world, data has a very important value, which can be materialized by these cyber hackers. So let's move and let's see what we have the next. What is cybersecurity then? Since we are living in the era of digitalization and the usage of internet has become too much in today's world, therefore the processing of data, storage of data, accessing and transmitting of the data or the information has become vital. So everyone is moving on digitalization, online services and platforms are readily available where a lot of information is getting stored. That's the reason why cybersecurity in today's world is very important, where the organization has to put defense mechanism in order to protect the information assets of the organization. So how we can do it? Even the regulatory standards focuses on the importance of the cybersecurity. So looking at some of the regulatory standards stated here, ADICS, which stands for Abu Dhabi Health Information and Cybersecurity. This focuses on protecting the patient health information in the healthcare sector. This also advised that cybersecurity should be addressed by the organization. Similarly, SIA, Information Assurance, which was formerly known as NISA. So Signal Intelligence Information Assurance also states that the entity should perform technical assessments, cybersecurity assessment to safeguard their information assets. Then Dubai ISR, and to name some of them, DIFC, ADGM are some of the local and regulatory standards and frameworks which focus on cybersecurity requirements. Now let us also look at international standards and framework which address the importance of cybersecurity that the entities should follow. So the very first one is Information Security Management System, which is also known as ISO 27001. Then ISO 27701, which is Privacy Information Management System. Then we have GDPR, HIPAA, which is again on the health information, PCI DSS, which focuses on card environment, and NIST CSF and Cloud Security Alliance. Let us look some of the common cyber attacks which are common globally or known globally. Ransomware, denial of service attack, password stealing, cross-site scripting, then phishing, malware. And if you look at even the named brands has been compromised because of cyber attack like Toyota, Coca-Cola, Pegasus Airlines, Crypto.com. So what does it mean that cybersecurity is relevant for each and every sector and industry, despite of the fact whether they are small, medium, or large enterprise or a multinational corporation. So everyone is prone to cyber attacks. So now it's a poll time. Dana, would you please launch a poll for our audience? So now let's look at the like have demo on the first scenario. So before I proceed with it, I would just like to brief you about the lab setup, what we have created for this life hack. So we have a victim machine, that is machine 1, which is accessing a web browser using the internet. and we do have a proxy server in between, and we have a machine 2, which is an attacker machine. So let's take a scenario, say the victim is Bob, who is trying to access a web application over the internet, and in between we have an attacker. So let's have another poll.
So now we're launching another poll on phishing emails, whether you have ever received phishing mails to your personal email address. So please answer the questions within like 30 seconds, because that's when we'll end the Okay, so I'll be ending the poll now. So as we can see, most of our participants today have been receiving phishing emails to their personal email address.
All right, thank you so much for your participation in the poll. So let's us now look at our first scenario where our security expert will be showing a live demo. The very first scenario is how passwords are obtained through phishing emails. So just to give you a brief about phishing, what is phishing is all about? It's a social engineering attack where an attacker use email as a modus of operandis, where they use unsolicited email, which looks legitimate to the victim, which has an attachment or a link which is attached to the email to lure the victim to click the link where the attacker can gain sensitive information. So there are multiple subsets of phishing attacks, such as spear phishing, whaling, business email compromise, clone phishing, snowshoeing. So spear phishing is nothing but it focuses on an individual. So it targets to a respective individual to gain the credentials of that particular individual. Now, whaling is another type of phishing attack where the attacker focuses on the top management of the organization, such as CEO, CFO, COO, in order to try to lure them into the phishing email and take access to the sensitive information that their machine may have. So let's see how exactly this kind of scenario is being executed by a hacker. So again, we have a poll.
Right, so Harish, we have a poll right now. I'm going to launch it. And,
sure, go ahead.
And then
go ahead, Dana.
Go ahead with the live demo. Lots of polls today to keep our
apparently this is interesting topic, so I think poll can give more insight.
Yes, I agree, definitely. Okay, so now we're going to be asking you how well you can recognize a phishing email. What's the best way? So please take 30 seconds to submit your answers, and then we'll be ending the poll. Okay, so I'll be ending the poll now and sharing the results with you. So we have very few who answered checking the subject line, another few who answered that they don't know, but most participants said that they would check for the email address itself, and a few others said that they would check the body of the email for words like for like win, free, and so on. So now we can proceed.
So let's have a look at the live demo. So for ease of understanding of everybody, I would just like to demonstrate here that how it will be performed by our security expert team. So if you see, there is an attacker machine, that is machine 1, and we have a victim machine, that is machine 2. So what attacker will be doing is that he will create a fake social media page of Facebook and embed the link of that Facebook onto a email, which is having an attachment. So the attacker will act as a legitimate training institute instructor, or you can say a marketing person, which is PC Council. And this attachment will talk about a course, free course that is being provided by this institute, training institute, that is PC Council. So once the attacker create this phishing email, he will send it to the victim. And once the victim will receive the phishing email, the victim will be able to look at the course detail. So on the email body, it will be mentioned as that in order to see the further details about the course material, you have to download the attachment, which would be password protected. So when the victim uses that password to access the attachment, he will find the details about the course. And when he try to get the price information, the fee of the course, when he click on that link, it will reroute the victim to a social engineering, to a social network on the web page, that is Facebook. And from there, when the victim try to log in to his account of Facebook, he uses his credentials, but unfortunately nothing happens. And at the same time, the attacker gets the credential of the victim. So let's see how it is being done. So now the attacker is creating an email, a fraudulent email, which looks legitimate. The attacker name here we have considered as PC Council. And the course name has been mentioned as CH course. So if you see, the attacker has already created all the relevant information that has to be used for this particular attack, that is phishing attack. Now the victim is Bob. So now the attacker will send an email to Bob. So currently we are looking at the attacker machine. So now the attacker will send this email to Bob. So let's wait and watch when Bob receives the email, how it looks like to Bob. All right, so Bob received the email now. You can see the email is from PC Council. Bob opens up this email and see that, okay, it is from PC Council. He goes through the content and says that in order to avail this free course, Bob has to use the social media and the PDF has to be opened. So this PDF is being protected, password protected. Let me remind you, this PDF is having a link which will redirect Bob to a social website. So Bob downloads the PDF, and now the PDF will be prompting for the password, and Bob enters the password, the given password on the email. All right, now successful. That means Bob was able to access the PDF now. So we have the details here. Now, in order to get the course price, Bob clicks the link. Now you can see that it has rerouted to a legitimate page of Facebook. However, it is not the legitimate page. It's the attacker's web page, which he created. Now, Bob is using his credential to log in to the Facebook account to avail the course. So let's see what happens when Bob logs in to his Facebook account. All right. Oh, oops. Bob was not able to log in. Why? Because that was not the actual Facebook login account. Now, when Bob initially entered his credentials to log into the Facebook account, it did not work. Now it has rerouted to the actual Facebook account. But in the meantime, attacker already got the information what he was looking for. So let's see whether the attacker have the credentials of Bob or not. So now attacker is going back to the website, started his machine to see if the credentials of Bob is there or not. All right, bingo. The attacker was able to gain the credentials of Bob. We can see the email ID which was used by Bob and the password that was used by Bob in order to log into the Facebook account. Now, using this credential, the attacker can impersonate or gather more information about Bob. So that was a live demonstration here about phishing, through which how the passwords can be gathered. So let's move on to our next scenario. So our next scenario is how unauthorized person can see your active web session. So what is unauthorized access to a web session? So let me give a brief about it. So it is also known as cookie hijacking or session hijacking. So when an individual logs on to a web application using the internet, there is a session that has been created between the user and the server. All right. And for each session that has been created, either there will be a cookie ID that will be generated by the server or the session ID. So if you see on the left side, there's a small demonstration of it where victim is using his credential to log on to a server. Okay, and a session ID was created, and the attacker who is there, who is not present in the network, who is sniffing the traffic over the internet, intervenes in it or intercept the traffic and captured the session ID. So what could go wrong if a session ID or a cookie ID is being captured? In this scenario, the attacker can actually reinvent the session even after the legitimate user, that is a victim, logs out from his own account. So there are different type of session tokens like predictable session tokens, season sniffing, client-side attacks, man in the middle, and man in the browser. So these are the different type of attacks that falls under session hijacking. So let's move on to the next slide and see what we have. Oh, again, it's a poll time. So Dana, can we have the poll for our audience?
Protecting your company from cyber hacks. So what systems are already there in your company that you know of to prevent cyber hacking? So in about 20 seconds, I'll just close the polls. So please submit your answers. Okay, so I will be closing the poll now. As we can see, the vast majority of participants have a firewall at their company. A few have anti-malware, threat hunting, SIEM, SOAR, or both, and a few also don't know.
Thank you, Dana, for the poll, and thank you, participants, for participating in our poll. So let's move on to the next scenario. Okay, so before we see the live demonstration, I would just like to brief you about the scenario that how this hack will happen. So as you see, we have a victim machine. Then we also have an attacker who is outside the network, who is sitting on the internet and sniffing the internet traffic. So the victim is trying to access a web page using the internet, trying to log on to a website. So he sends the request to the web server, and in response, web server returns a response with a session or a cookie ID, which has been generated between the victim and the web server. Now, the attacker who is on outside the environment, who is on the internet and sniffing the traffic on the internet, sniffs using his tool the session ID or the cookie ID. Now, the attacker will be stealing this cookie ID or the session ID which was generated to regenerate the same session of the victim after the victim logs out from the session. So let's see how it works. Okay, so now we have the victim who is trying to log on to the account. The victim uses the username and the credentials to log on. We got the response that, okay, successful logon is there. Now, the attacker who is sniffing this internet traffic intercepts the traffic using the tools. So when the victim is further looking into the profile, the attacker see the traffic and could see the cookie ID. Now the attacker will steal this cookie ID and now the user will log off from the account. So we can see the response that the user has successfully logged off from the account. Now let's see how the hacker will regenerate this session and will be able to log into the victim's account. Now attacker is using his machine to log on to the user's account. So now the attacker is going to use the session cookie ID for that purpose. Okay. So now attacker goes back again. He knows that what application was accessed by the victim. He used the same application. He tried to log in and intercept the traffic when he was trying to log in. All right. So if you see, we could see that the attacker uses same cookie ID. He just changed or manipulated the traffic on the header part of it and embedded the same cookie ID to access the victim's account without using his or her credentials. Now, by doing this, the attacker was able to gain sensitive information, card information, personally identifiable information such as address, phone number, email, name. So this is how the attackers actually compromise the session and gain sensitive information. Let us look on the next steps. Okay. So we have another live demo that is on file upload. So what is file upload? So this is a common vulnerability that can be seen on most of the web application who allows an individual to upload attachments. So the major vulnerability is that sometimes these web application does not do a proper sanitization and filtering. So because of which the sensitive information can be compromised. So let us see how this can be happened. So here we have a scenario where the attacker and there is a server and a vulnerable machine which is over there. So what attacker will do is that he will open up the web application where we have an option to upload, attachments in any format and see whether he's able to upload any kind of format into that particular web application or not. And then he will put a malicious file or the attachment, which will open a backdoor for the attacker to gain the control of the system, or you can say the web application. So he will do a reverse shell using that malicious file and then would be able to gain the access to the system. So let's see the live demo for that. All right. So now attacker is on a web application which allows users to upload files. So now attacker will try to check what all extension can be uploaded here, whether there is any kind of check mechanism being built at the web application front. Okay, so let's see. Okay, the attacker is trying to load it. Let's give some time, because sometimes it takes a little while. One attempt is not enough to get the exploitable things done in a single go. Okay, so meanwhile, we go back to the live demo. I will just give you the scenario that what exactly will be done by the attacker and how the attacker will compromise this. So if you see, we have machine 1, which is for the attacker. And we have machine 2, that is a web server. Then again, we have machine 1 of the attacker and a web server machine 2. So if you see, the attacker logs on to the web application where we have a facility of uploading images. And when the attacker tests that, and he or she is able to successfully upload the image. Now, when the attacker tries to upload the malicious file, which would be in PHP format, the server rejects it. That means there are some checks and balances that are put in place. That means security controls have been built in, which is not allowing the attacker to upload any other extension apart from image, that is JPEG. So what attacker will do here, the attacker will again intercept and try to manipulate the header and convert the PHP file into a JPEG, that is image, and upload that and try to upload that file again to the web server. And let's see what would be the result. So what do you think, what can go wrong here? So the attacker slowly convert this PHP file using the tools and technology into JPEG. That means they will embed it into the JPEG, this malicious file, which will be having a malware into it, which opens up a backdoor, allowing the attacker to take a remote access through reverse shell. So we will be showing that demo right away. So let's look into it. All right. So we are on the attacker machine right now. Attacker has opened up the web application. Now the attacker is uploading a JPG image of a car, and we receive a response that something went wrong. Like I said, it is not that in a single attempt an attacker can execute his or her attack. So for that, they have to do multiple attempts. So this is one of the demonstration where it is taking some time for the attacker to reinitiate the attack to achieve his objective of uploading a malicious file to the web server. So in the first attempt, the attacker failed to do so. Now attacker has to go and check what exactly is happening at the back end using the tools. All right. So now attacker is using an intercepting tool for web traffic. Let us wait for the tool to start to see what exactly goes on. Okay, so now the attacker is using the tool and setting up its requirements that is necessary to obtain the traffic or convert the file. All right. Now we can see that the car image has been uploaded. So this gives the assurance to the attacker that the server accepts only the image file. Now the attacker will try with another extension to upload. And let's see whether the server accepts that or not. So we have a PHP file, which is a malicious file. And attacker is trying to upload it. Oh, now we got a response. Your image was not uploaded. That means that the server has not allowed to upload any other extension apart from image extension, that is JPEG. So now what attacker will do, like I said in the beginning, that the attacker will try to manipulate the PHP file into a JPEG with the same malicious content or a payload and try to upload it again on the web server, web application. So now the attacker is intercepting the traffic. Now the attacker browses the malicious file where he has kept it and try to upload it now. Now you see that the traffic has been intercepted by the attacker using his tool and changed the extension of the backend to PHP. Now let's see what happens. Bingo. The attacker was successfully able to upload a PHP file onto the web server. So now we will see whether the attacker was able to gain the access of the server or not on his machine, a remote access through reverse shell. Let's see. Let's validate that part. All right. So the attacker is working on it. All right. See, we can see here the attacker is able to access the application. And we can see the payload is also reflecting here, which the attacker implanted, uploaded on the server. This is the confirmation that the attacker got on his system. Now let's go back and see on the web application whether that file resides there or not. Now, in order for the hacker to ensure that the malicious file is residing in the web server, the attacker will put a string in the file and validate that information. Now, this is the server, the victim machine, what we have. All right, let's see. Okay, so now we can see that the file reflects in the victim machine. So this means it was a successful execution of file upload. So that means the attacker can anytime take the access of the server. So which has been demonstrated here. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Oh, now we have a poll time. So Dana, can you please put the poll for our audience and let's see the response.
Evaluate whether you have had any kind of cyber attacks at your company, to your knowledge, of course. Please take around 30 seconds to submit your answers, and then we'll be ending the poll. Okay, so as we can see, around 30% of people said phishing, 50% of participants mentioned ransomware. Some of them don't know, some of them said no. And there are all the other types. So we can see that it's quite common to happen.
Thank you so much for your participation in the poll. We can move on to the next part, Dana. So next part is how to protect systems from hackers. So my advice to the organization will be that they should conduct periodic cybersecurity assessment, which should at least include the very first important part. When you're trying to do a scoping, you should identify the critical information systems and underlying infrastructure to it. The second thing, you should plan for a long-term vulnerability management program, at least for 12 months. It should be 1-year program where you should have multiple or a different scoping part and the testing mechanism. Most of us, what we do, we only target the critical information system. We don't look at non-critical information systems. So we should also consider bringing non-critical information system also under the scope of vulnerability management program. Why it is important? Because non-critical systems can, if become vulnerable, can compromise your critical systems as well. So it's very important to understand what are the threats available or that the non-critical system possess in the IT environment. Also, we should also look at web and mobile application testing, network including cloud, wired as well as wireless. Most of us leave out the wireless part, but we should also look at the wireless testing. At the same time, we should also target for the configuration reviews to ensure that proper hardening has been done on the network as well as system front. Ransomware and malware analysis is very important because in today's era, the most of the attacks are done through the malwares or ransomware attacks. Social engineering is also an important aspect that the entity should focus on. Apart from that, the entity should also carry out assessment on their identity and access management, IT disaster recovery plans. Let's move on. So how MBG can help their clients? MBG offers variety of services to their customers under the cybersecurity services. We provide information security, infrastructure security assessment, which encompasses of network penetration testing, security architecture and configuration review, application and database security. Then we have application security assessment, which focuses on web and mobile application assessment, cloud security applications, and API, that is application programming interface security. So in today's world, most of us are dealing with APIs. So let us focus also on the security parameters of API, because every sector, every industry is using API, but nobody focuses on the security aspects of API, because of which it has become very easier for the attackers to compromise this API and gain information. So we should understand that the whole perspective of cybersecurity is to protect the information assets or data. We do have additional services, which is Internet of Things Security Assessment, ICS or OT, that is Industrial Control System or Operational Technology Security Assessment. So that would be all from my side. Thank you so much for your time and patient hearing. Dana, over to you.
Hi, Harish. We actually have a few questions. Okay. In the interest of time, I'll only be taking either 2 or 3. So the first question says, if I have a firewall in my company, do I still need to go under a cybersecurity assessment?
Of course, Dana, it is pretty much important that despite of the fact if an organization has a firewall, they have to undergo a cybersecurity assessment to understand the vulnerabilities that resides within their internal network. So cybersecurity is a one step, a defense in one step, what they have done by applying the firewall at the parameter, but the firewall cannot protect the entire network. So it may be able to defend against some, common attacks like DOS or DDoS attacks, but there are a lot of attacks which are prone. So the entity should still go ahead and carry out the cybersecurity assessment to ensure that they are aware of the known threats and that has been fixed.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. Now another question. If I don't have any internet-facing applications, will I still undergo the cybersecurity assessment?
Of course. To answer this is a very good question. Actually, definitely, despite of the fact whether we don't have an internet-facing application, but if we have internal applications still, cybersecurity is important to an extent because, again, like I said in the previous answer, that we need to understand the threat landscape within the internal environment of the organization so that we can take corrective action before it's too late.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we can squeeze in one more question. Otherwise, for any participants who are not able to get their questions answered, please feel free to send us a mail. I will be sharing the contact details in the last slide. So please don't hesitate to send us, an email or contact us on WhatsApp, and we'll be happy to take take your questions. So the last question for today is, being an SME, what do you recommend to do on the frequency for conducting cybersecurity assessments?
It's a very good question, Dana. So what I would recommend that since the cyber attacks are becoming more sophisticated and every day there is a new vulnerability that is coming into play, and we can see that every day there is a new news that is coming on the cyber attack that is happening. So I would recommend that the entity should at least conduct the cybersecurity assessment on a quarterly basis, which can enhance, at least give them an insight that what are the existing threats they have in their infrastructure, and they can take a corrective action immediately. So as the cyber threats are more sophisticated, we have to be on the toes and increase the frequency of carrying out the cyber security assessment. Those days are gone where we used to carry out the cyber security assessment only once in a year. So ultimately, the objective of the cybersecurity assessment is to protect the information assets and the reputation of the organization. Hence, I would say it should be at least on a quarterly basis. If you can carry out on a monthly basis, that is very good.
Questions, but please, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have sent questions which we have not been able to answer, so please feel free to send them back by email or to get in touch with us on WhatsApp. The numbers are on the screen. I would also like to let you know that we'll be having, since this is a series of webinars, we'll be having the next webinar. We will send you the date on when it's going to happen in our follow-up email to this webinar. So we will send you an email which has the recording for this webinar as well as the upcoming date for the next webinar and the topic as well. So thank you very much for participating. Thank you for bearing with us till the end, and we will hopefully be seeing you soon. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.